right, welcome back everybody. We're here for another episode of the Business Showcase series, and today I'm sitting with Gerry Campbell
from Liberty Tax Service.
And we're here to talk about taxes, everybody's favorite subject, because now's the time to start planning if you haven't already. Gerry, tell me, how long have you been in business? Where are we? How long have we been in business? And who do you serve typically?
We've been in business for 23 years. We've always been on the Danforth. For a number of years, we were at Jones and Danforth, then basically across the street at the corner, and now we're at 1714 Danforth across from McDonald's.
Cool.
We serve pretty well anything that has to do with taxation, Canadian, US, corporate, self-employment, rental, estates, trust returns, Quebec returns, and non-forth, GSTs, payroll. If it has to do with taxes, we're here to help.
You're here to help. Wow. So you pretty much cover like the whole spectrum.
Yeah, I don't think that there isn't anything we can do. I've often wondered if it's a marketing ploy to say, bring something we can't do and we'll do it for free.
Okay, that's not bad. Maybe we'll throw that up there.
I've been thinking about it.
Okay, all right, cool. So tell me a little bit about the structure of Liberty Tax. I mean, is it a franchise? Do you operate your own location? Are you responsible for marketing and creating business? Like, how does that work?
We are a franchise, part of a Canada-US franchise, 3,500 stores in North America, about 350 here in Canada, 9 here in the general Toronto area. Marketing split between individual franchisees and corporate. Corporate does a lot of branding, and we do a lot of the local stuff. And ourselves, this year we've sent out postcards to 30,000 homes in the area. We also do social marketing, radio ads. You might have heard Taxiety on the most recent radio ads.
Yeah.
A word that's made up and hoping will end up in the dictionary.
Yeah, with Liberty Tax right under it. Yeah, that's good.
Nevertheless, the biggest percentage of our clients come from referrals. We do about 3,500 Canadian returns, about 300 US returns, about 100 corporate returns, and a number of trust, Quebec, and other returns thrown in.
Interesting. What would be some things that, let's say a homeowner, somebody who's watching this, right? They own a property, it's their own. What sort of things can they write off?
If they're not renting, it's a principal residence, there's not much that they can write off. Other than they might be eligible for the Ontario property tax credit. It's based on their income and the amount of tax they pay on the property. If they're buying a house, a new one, and they're eligible for $5,000 non-refundable tax credit, which works up to $750 in actual tax reduction. If they have rental, they can start writing off expenses proportional to the space they rent in the house. So the only thing that they can't write off of most of those expenses is the principal on the mortgage. They can write off the interest, but not the principal on the mortgage.
If there's a portion of the house is being rented out.
Yeah, so if you have a two-story plus basement and renting out the basement, you write off 1/3 of the house.
Got it.
All costs, maintenance that is of the same nature, not improvements, you can write off. If it's improvement, you can't write it off as maintenance.
So what was that one that you said if they just bought a property?
If they purchased a new home, they're eligible for a $5,000 non-refundable tax credit or a $750 equivalent tax reduction.
Okay.
The 5,000 rolls into a 750 reduction.
And that applies to the year they bought the property?
It applies to the year that they took title to the property.
Title to the property, okay. And what was the other one? You said something about property taxes.
Property taxes is an Ontario credit for people that own their own property.
Okay.
It is on the ONBEN form, Ontario Benefits form.
Okay.
And it's based on the amount of property tax you pay to the income you have.
Okay.
If you're a senior or one of the people in the household is 64 or older, you get a bonus amount.
So it helps to have your mom or your grandpa or grandparent live with you.
On title.
They have to be on title. Okay, of course. Yeah. CRA won't let you get by with.
Well, they could be on the tax bill and not on title, I suppose, but it shouldn't be that way.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And what about first-time homebuyers? Is there anything special for first-time homebuyers?
First-time homebuyers have that $5,750 applies to first-time homebuyers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that is the benefit for first-time homebuyers. In addition to
first-time homebuyers defined as not owning a house for 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not the same as the land transfer tax credit that you
right.
get, which would be can't have bought anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you bought something 5 years ago, or if you sold something 5 years ago and haven't bought since,
and 5 years have lapsed.
And 5 years have lapsed.
5 calendar years have lapsed.
Got it. Yeah, those are like some specifics, but more or less.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't done that in the last 5 years, you've missed out on a lot of appreciation. So that's $750.
I bought my house in 1998. It's gone up a lot.
There you go. Well, that's real estate, right? Long-term buy and hold.
And it's going to go up more because I'm having a complete rental on the south side and a new build on the north side. So I figure that's going to increase it 10 to 15% alone.
There you go. Add value, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what about small business owners or entrepreneurs? Because a lot of the community that I talk to are entrepreneurs, small business owners. So is there anything for them that you can suggest in terms of preparing for taxes or being a little bit more efficient?
Keep all the receipts.
Okay.
Open up a business account, so you have to register the business on Ontario. I suggest Ontario, not as a corporation, but as a small business. I don't recommend people incorporate till they're making about $100,000 to $150,000 profit a year. It just doesn't make sense monetarily wise.
Okay.
But keep all the receipts. If you're entertaining someone, not just yourself, write the name of the people you're entertaining and what you spoke about business on the back. Mm-hmm. CRA cannot refuse that receipt. But if you can't remember who you were eating with and what you were talking with, they can challenge it.
Okay.
And the receipts should basically be a category. If you go on the CRA site and look for Form T2125, it'll show you what the expense. There's also lines you can add for specific things.
Okay. And
try to categorize your receipts annually in those categories.
So keep your receipts. Write down if it's like a meal or some kind of entertainment.
Because they challenge that a lot.
Okay, got it. And I guess, in terms of being audited, because nobody wants that. That's like the worst thing that can ever happen to you.
And if you're a small business, the probability is 4 times higher than an individual on a T4.
Yeah, it makes sense because you have a little bit more leeway in terms of what you're writing off and things like that. So what should you do? Or like what's the way to try to avoid or dropping your chances of getting audited? Is there anything that the CRA is looking at? Are there any red flags?
Number one red flag is if you're a HST person, charging HST, that amount of sales doesn't match what you put in your T2125. So what you claim as sales on your HST report does not match what you claimed in your income tax on the T2125 as income.
That's why you have to rely on a good accountant to tell you these things.
Yeah. The other thing is a lot of professional taxpayers, ourselves and others, we have enough experience with audits that we know what to look for and where we should massage the numbers a bit.
Gotcha.
Make sure that it goes in the right category and so forth.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I do also recommend that if you're using a professional business like Liberty Tax or our main competition, Softron or H&R Block or those, is you find out how long the person's been doing taxes. If you're doing business taxes with someone that has less than 3 to 5 years, walk away. They haven't had the experience of doing audits because they're working part-time or just working seasonal. Okay.
And is it true that they can go back 7 years?
They can go back 3 years from your filing.
Okay.
They can go back further if they find fraud. Or they can go back further by sending you a letter and getting you to allow them to do so. They will send, if they want to look back 4 or 5 years, they'll send you a letter asking me if it's okay. Don't sign that letter.
Well, yeah, I guess if they're asking you, it gives you an option to say no.
That's right.
But I guess if you say no, then you look.
No, the thing is they'd have to find fraud in the last 3 to be able to do that.
Okay. And what's defined as fraud? Like, what if, let's say
the best way to describe fraud from a tax perspective, they're able to find that you were doing something that you knew was wrong.
So let's say, for example, for meals or entertainment, right? I spent, I don't know, call it $5,000 in the year, but my receipts only come out to $4,000, and I don't have the other $1,000, but I know I spent that $5,000 because I went through my, my transaction. Is that fraud?
No, that's not fraud.
Okay.
But it is subject to reassessment.
Okay.
And you pay tax and penalty on that extra $1,000 that you didn't.
Because you didn't have the receipts.
Because you didn't have the receipts.
What if I have statements like e-statements from my credit card bill?
They don't like credit card at the first level audit, but they generally will accept them at the second level, and the tax court will allow them.
Okay.
So it's just they are in the business of disallowing expenses.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Of course, they're in the business.
That's
almost making money. Yeah.
That's a business, despite the fact that their mission statement says they're there to help Canadians. They see their role as to get the maximum dollars they can out of you.
I'd be curious to know if they get bonuses based on how much they.
It is my understanding, but I have not been able to prove it, that they do get a bonus for things. But I don't object to that. What I object to is they don't get a negative bonus if it's overturned.
Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, stuff. It's appropriate to pay people what they should get. But if they don't get a negative, it appears that they're being harder than they should.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they can scare you, right? Like they are the official, right? Like representative of the government of Canada, and it's like you get a letter from the CRA. Everything you drop the ball and everything else. It's like this is what you got to focus on.
This business is when we started. We decided in my wife's name and remains in my wife's name. I'm just the wife's slave in this case.
You're a very trusting individual.
Also has advantages if she ever separates me.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But she had an audit 1 year.
Okay.
And we do what we call discounting. We between basically mid-January to the end of April, we'll give you an advanced tax refund based on the formula the government has. She was audited, and the auditor came back with this massive HST bill that included all this discounted. However, the Discounting Act says the maximum HST that can be charged is on the first $300. Above that, there's no HST. Well, we had to fight that, and so it took almost 18 months before we had it all resolved. The tax bill, the first they came in with $40,000, ended up being $278, which was something we admitted to on the first sit down when she asked us a question. We had marked in our system one thing to be exempt from HST, and it wasn't. So they ended up paying us more in interest.
Yeah.
Because they actually went in and seized the money because it was an HST, which you're allowed to.
So pay off the HST oval as soon as you can. And if you linger and wait, like I usually do,
about 90 days, they'll send you the first demand letter.
A demand letter. Okay. And what if, let's say you eventually pay them.
It's about 60 days till you'll get the letter about 3 days after they've frozen your account or taken the money out of your account.
Got it. Do they track if you're late on those payments every year? Like, let's say you're the type of person.
They have that lot of history. Whether they track it for a purpose, I don't know.
Okay. But they do
have
that history. Yeah. So you're better off doing it. Pay them off, get them off your back.
Yeah, and if you don't think you can afford to pay it, whether it's HST source, call them and talk about a plan to repay it. And then every month they'll send you the balance and the interest and stuff. But at least they'll stay off your back if you're following what you agreed to do.
Yeah, okay.
On the personal side, when you got the HST and the payroll stuff done, do the same. Call them, make a plan. But it's not on the HST and the payroll. They can decide, okay, we're going to go in and seize. If you miss or late or bounces.
Yeah.
On the personal, they don't do that. They contact you first.
Avoid that as much as you absolutely can.
Yeah.
Well, listen, there's so much information to talk about. We've got a limited amount of time here, but what's the address again? 1714
Danforth Avenue, across from McDonald's.
Across from McDonald's. And what's the best way to contact you? Phone call?
You can do a phone call, 416-406-9990, or web go for Liberty Tax Canada and find our store under Toronto.
Okay.
You can even make an appointment online.
Got it.
And if you send an email to us, we'll respond.
Awesome. And your rates and things like that, should people just inquire about them? Or are they online? Or
we don't put our rates online. Okay. We are very competitive to Softron and HR Block. We are more expensive than the $30 guy down the street.
Okay. Well, you know what? In my experience, it pays to pay. You know what I mean? Like
you're buying our knowledge.
Exactly.
As I mentioned, we got a lot of people with more than 23 years of experience, and that pays.
Yeah.
A real simple return I can do in 15 minutes. You buy a program out of the store, you're probably going to be there 2 or 3 hours.
Exactly. You should stick to what you do best. And if taxes is not it,
and we provide other information along the line that we know.
Awesome.
And our service is year round. We charge only once.
So any kind of support after the fact?
It's free.
Okay. Awesome. That's really good.
Yeah, we get people almost daily ask us for a copy of their T1 and their notice of assessment for the bank mortgages.
Well, thank you very much, Gerry.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
It was informative. And if you guys want to reach out, you know how to. And we will see you on the next one. See you later.
Salut.